All right, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you listening as always. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share, especially if you can like and or share this episode. Or if you can, when you subscribe on any one of the podcast platforms, it really helps us out a lot. It costs you nothing, but helps us a ton. So we appreciate you listening. As always, want to thank Adam Chubbuck with Douglas Realty in Pasadena, Maryland. That's TACMD.com. TACMD.com is his website. We're going to get a new Fed chief here in a couple months, so we'll see what happens with interest rates. But yeah, it's important to know someone who's plugged into that entire ecosystem of real estate and mortgage rates and all that, because he's going to be the best person to give you the best advice. I've mentioned this before. I graduated with a bachelor's of finance, and even for someone like me, it's hard to keep up with all these changes, especially in the financial market. But someone who bought their first home when they were 22, I'm not unfamiliar with the real estate game, as they say, but I still rely on Adam for all my information because he's in the middle of it every day, and he knows he'll know things that I don't. So go to TACMD.com. That's TACMD.com, and get professional help with your real estate transaction. All right, so we're going to touch on a touchy subject today. In fact, it was very touchy. My wife and I actually got in a little bit of an argument over a portion of this. Everything is fine though. We don't agree on a lot politically, so
we're not going to have a divorce lawyer sponsor, unless a divorce lawyer wants to sponsor the show. Then.
I mean, look, I'm sure a lot of divorcees listen to this show, or a lot of people on the verge of divorcee, and that is the proper French way to say divorce. If you are about to get a divorcee and you need a divorce lawyer, we don't have a recommendation at this point, but if a divorce lawyer would like for us to recommend them, we'd have to have a meeting first to make sure they're not a scumbag.
Right.
But we will be more than happy to take them on as a sponsor. I actually thought we were going to have a very appropriate sponsor for this show, but I got an initial email from a company dealing with shit.
Right.
I was like, wow, that couldn't fit in better. And I have yet to receive a return email from my return email. So I have a feeling it's not a monitored email address.
Could be.
So I've got to find another way to reach out.
Yeah.
But that would also be an interesting sponsor. We've had a little bit of interest lately, which is a little bit more than a little bit. But there were some that were just like, probably can't go down that route. All right, so I'm going to talk about I guess we kind of talked about the Renee Good shooting in Minnesota, but we didn't talk about the Alex Pretti shooting. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, not so much about the shooting, but although we'll probably get into that too. But it's more about I guess watching the commentary on it, because you had mentioned something interesting in one of our texts that I hadn't really thought about, and then once you mentioned it, and I thought about it, I was like, well, shit. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. So it was just an interesting point. Why don't you go ahead and explain?
So what I kind of picked up through all this, it seems like the two sides are just flip-flopping on some core issues that were tenets of the faith of either side. So the one big one that I kind of noticed was and it was from a conversation I was having with one of my buddies who is much farther left than I am on anything, but he's all of a sudden bought a gun, and in the text message, when we're talking, he's like, to protect myself from ICE. I'm like, okay, if that's how you see it, I'm not really thinking ICE is kicking your door in anytime soon, but, and you're probably going to lose that gunfight.
Not probably. Definitely.
Just the numbers thing. It comes down to, you could be a, cold-blooded killer, but eventually they're just going to overwhelm you with numbers, right?
We all saw the movie 300.
Yeah.
Eventually the 300 die.
Right. Exactly.
You might take. They took some Persians out,
Yeah, they did some damage.
but they still. Most of them got wiped out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
didn't they end up pushing them back? I don't remember the whole story.
it kind of looked, and this is off topic, it almost looked like a rearguard action. Like they're just buying time for.
They got sabotaged. That's what happened.
Yeah, yeah, because the dude, the goofy guy, like Xerxes let him bang some hooker, and then
Yeah. Gave him the coordinates on the back door to the position.
yeah, yeah. So, in any case, he was talking about buying, and he actually bought one, and we talked a bunch about what he should get, and blah blah blah. So, when you have a side of the aisle that all the anti-gun stuff comes from them, right? The right is pro-gun, the left is anti-gun, historically, but now it's kind of flipped because you see the ICE protesters out there armed with the evil black AR-15 platform rifle, and as they like to say, assault rifle. That's not what AR stands for, Armalite rifle. But in any case, they are out there armed. They've got plate carriers, extra magazines, and it's protecting my neighborhood from ICE. So, meanwhile, on the right, you've got Donald Trump saying you can't bring guns to protests. But all the other previous protesters who were armed were all, prior to the ICE thing, would be considered on the right.
Right.
If you talk to the media, they'd be far right.
Right.
If you talk to some, they'd be militias. They'd be armed insurgent militias and all this nonsense.
Insurrectionists,
Yes.
if you will.
Armed insurrectionists. So now, however, it's on the other side, and it's, they're protecting their neighborhoods. So just a really interesting flip-flop. The other flip-flop I found interesting was, keep the government out of our homes. Well, okay, I agree with that 100%, regardless of what the government's there for. However, during COVID, the left was all about
Get the jab or lose your job.
yeah, and masks and reporting each other for having more than 4 people in a house and all the nonsense that was going on.
We had a COVID party.
Yeah,
That's what someone called it.
yeah.
They called it a COVID spreader.
No one got COVID from that.
No, not at all. Not one person. Shocking.
So, but that whole flip, so it just really goes to show that neither one of these groups of people are principled at all. They will use whatever they can use when it's convenient, and they'll just flip flop on anything. And it surprised me from the right, because they've always been kind of like real steady on the Second Amendment issues.
Guns no matter what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. Out of my cold dead hands, and all the rhetoric and them shooting. I never understood why you'd see some of these. They're always Republican candidates for some office. They'd shoot like a pile of like the tax code with a shotgun. Like, this is what I think of the tax code, and they'd shoot it with a shotgun. You showed it, but
Yes.
the drastic flip I just found really interesting, and I want to see what they go on further to change positions on and use to obtain power or cudgel the other side with as we move along, because watching lefty activists with AR-15s is interesting. As a 2A guy, I'm like, hey, welcome to the team, guys. But
Yeah, and the picture that stands out is like the bearded guy in on a sidewalk with the gun. And the funny part, so the internet will always call out the hypocrisy, right? Mm-hmm. So the left's like, yay, go bearded man with the AR in his hand, yay, protect that icy Minnesota tundra. Meanwhile, they were the same people who lambasted the couple in St. Louis.
yes,
When I believe it was one of the protest groups, I forgot who it was, basically was walking through their neighborhood, and so the two people stood outside brandishing firearms
yeah,
on their lawn,
mm-hmm.
on their property.
Yep, and they were charged.
And they were charged.
Yeah.
And they and this was the time when it was the mostly peaceful protests, which probably, there were a lot of not peaceful protests.
Right.
So they were outside making sure no one, and there was, robberies and lootings and
all kinds of stuff.
And so they went out there, and I'm sure they weren't the nicest of people with their guns in hand, but essentially there was a purpose to it, right? It was protecting their neighborhood, right? Essentially the same narrative. It's the same narrative for both of them. Two different scenarios. And it's a complete flip-flop on who's saying who the bad people are. It's wild how similar the two situations are.
In fact, the bearded guy if I remember correctly, the bearded guy with the AR in Minnesota looks kind of like your typical doughy, probably couldn't run from one end of that block to the other.
That's why he's got the gun.
Yeah.
Don't have to run if you got one.
Right.
You start spraying.
Until someone takes it from you.
Well, or shoot you in the face.
But he's on the street. He's not in front of his house. He's saying our neighborhood. Those people in St. Louis were actually on their property behind the gate to their. Now these people had buku bucks. He was some sort of attorney.
I'm sure he's a scumbag in some way.
Yeah. But I always thought how she was funny how she wasn't even holding she had a pistol.
She had like a little tiny.
And she wasn't even holding it correctly. She had like her entire all four fingers below the trigger guard. Which is like, what is it? Is it a hair dryer?
Yeah.
Like she might as well have been out there with a hair dryer.
Yeah. It just comes out with a thing that says bang.
Yeah. But those people were actually on their own property, whereas this guy was just out on the street. So
I thought he was on a sidewalk. I couldn't really tell. It could have been his house.
Yeah, it could have been in front of his house, but there was no like definitive line. Like he was kind of standing. It would be like me standing on the corner of our two streets.
Right.
Maybe my house is right there, but I'm still, on the public easement.
To me, they're similar enough situations.
But absolutely 100% similar, and just how they're portrayed is completely different. The couple in St. Louis were the devil, horrible MAGA racists, where the people are guardians and protectors.
And it was a complete opposite view if you were on the other side. It's like it does show how politics become so tribal. And like you'll drop all of your beliefs just because your tribe said something, even if it's completely different from what you said 3 years ago.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, people change their minds all the time. And yes, these are nuanced topics and situations. But I get that part too. Like you could say that the old couple was protecting themselves from lawless individuals, whereas the other guy is protecting himself from a tyrannical government.
Right.
Well, which is funny because that's what the Second Amendment is there for. To protect to protect the population from a tyrannical government. Now, I'm not saying the government's being a tyrannical government, but if you believe it's being a tyrannical government and you've got your gun, you are probably closer to the letter of the law of the Second Amendment than the people in St. Louis were. Yeah. Which is funny to me. Because that means the right should be backing this dude even more.
Yeah.
Because it's closer to the actual Second Amendment language.
Yeah. Now, I think the NRA has actually come out with some stuff supporting some of these protesters who are armed, which I think is, hey, okay, good. That's what you should be doing.
What if it's some big mind fuck where the left is like, you know what? We're going to put a whole bunch of these people out there with guns. And we're going to get the right to say that they shouldn't have guns in public. And how it creates chaos in these situations because they have guns. We're going to prove the point. Maybe it's maybe that's 5D chess from the left.
Could be.
Who knows? I mean, like, look, like our politics and opinions on this could be way different. Like, there's like, in my interpretation of the guy in Minnesota with his gun is, to me, he just looks stupid.
True.
Right? But then you've got the Pretti situation where he had the gun in the holster the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, you have a concealed carry permit. He did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he didn't pull it out. although some have argued he reached. And did he reach for it? But it doesn't matter if you reach in a direction where an officer can't see what you're reaching for. That could be considered reaching for the weapon. Mm-hmm. You're already taking a heightened situation and making it worse.
Right.
And so, well, I was. And the last thing I was going to say was the situations for me are completely different from the bearded dude to the Pretti situation.
Right.
Because one had a concealed carry permit. It was still concealed. Mm-hmm. Now, did he do some shit that he shouldn't have been doing? Yeah. And we can get into that in a minute. But the other dude, I don't know if the other dude, it felt like a photo op. Like, there's nobody around him.
Right.
He's just chilling there with a gun.
Yeah.
With the AR.
Yeah.
Like, you're just ready?
If you want to draw attention to yourself, it's a great way to do it.
Right. And if it is a neighborhood, and it looked like it was like single-family homes and whatnot, it's like, dude, you got kids around. Like, that's not. I mean, I get it. That's what that's closer to the Second Amendment than anything. But, Broseph, you got kids around the neighborhood, the suburban neighborhood. What if you just put it on the porch, and just kind of you sit on the porch, have it hidden kind of on the porch, like so the kids aren't saying, "Ooh, an AR."
Right.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah. It's drawing attention to yourself. And sometimes I think that's the purpose is to draw attention to yourself. If you walk outside your house with a big rifle on a sling across your chest, like, people are going to be like, "What's that?" It's something you don't see every day, and people that are unfamiliar with guns are put off by them. And I've spent my life around them. If I saw some dude walking down our street with a rifle slung across his chest, my senses are going to be heightened, because it's just not something you see every day. It would be almost if I saw someone walking down the street with a chainsaw, revving a chainsaw, like, why does this dude have there's no trees he's chopping down anywhere close by. So it does draw attention. The one thing, though, with Pretti, and a lot of and also getting back to, what was the lady's name? Good?
Yeah, Renee Good.
Yeah, because everyone was saying say her name, too.
That's a different situation for me.
But what I'm missing from the elected leadership, and I'm using leadership in quotes, no one is saying, hey, maybe it's not wise to insert yourself into these volatile situations at all. Number one. Number two, doing it while you're armed. So I fully support everyone's right to protect themselves. However, with it comes responsibility, and with it comes being aware that, if I go and inject myself into this situation and I'm armed, I've just upped the level, right? So now you're not saying that the shooting, that this guy should have lost his life. However, had he just not inserted himself into the situation, he'd still be running around doing his thing.
But and that situation gets a little bit more in depth. So days earlier, he had a heated confrontation with ICE agents, or whichever agents were there. There's CBP, there's ICE, there's a bunch of them up there.
Yeah.
He is an agitator. He's associated with a group that goes to protest to agitate. And we had talked about this with Matt Bennett when he was telling us, oh, nobody's paid to be there. Okay. A majority of the people at these protests are not paid to be there. They're the true believers. And then you've got groups that are there that fund these organizations that send in agitators to get the true believers riled up. Now, this guy is an agitator. He goes to these things, he gets in the face of ICE agents, not from the sideline. He has gone, he's a guy that goes up to them and will push an ICE agent.
Right.
Right. That's not there to protest, that's there to agitate. If you then start to interfere with a federal officer or officer detaining someone, you then escalate that situation. It's like, we've said this before, if you're in a car and you get pulled over by a police officer, the worst thing you can do is be a dick.
Sure.
Or open your door. Or hide your hands. Or reach somewhere without telling the officer what you're doing.
Right.
Do you have to keep your hands at 10 to 2? Do you have to say, officer, I have the, or I'm going to reach for I'm going to reach for my insurance, I'm going to reach for my license? Do you have to do that? No. Does it put you in a safer position? Yes. And 9 times out of 10, even if you just reach for your driver's license or in the glove box, no officer is going to just pull his gun on you.
Right.
But if you have an aggressive tone, you're calling him a piece of shit, you're fuck you, I hate you, what am I here for? What am I here for? Why'd you stop me? Why'd you stop me? If you do that shit, now you're putting the officer on edge.
Yeah, and you're taking something. So if you thought of it as like threat conditions, remember when Homeland Security came out with the terror threat level?
Yeah.
And I forget, what was there, 4 or 5 colors?
There were 5.
So if, say, green is just everything's, the encounter alone is taking it to yellow. Just at that, you have 2 people that don't know each other. One's in a position of power and authority. One is not. However, there's also an unknown, which is the person being stopped and the contents of the car and all that other stuff. So you're already there. It can be complete. Now, it can come down, and usually almost always does, in the millions of interactions that occur every single year in the United States. But then if you're going to start, if the person being stopped is going to start being agitated and being confrontational, now you're taking it up another level. There's no need to go there, right? Because like
you're not going to not get a ticket by increasing the agitation.
Sure.
In fact, you're probably, if you just, a lot of times, I mean, unless you have like a lot of warnings on your record for driving, most times if you haven't had a warning in about 2 years on your driving record, the cop usually lets you go with a warning.
Sure. A lot.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Some will give you the ticket, but it's probably like the $50 variety, not the $300 variety. Mm-hmm. Or they'll reduce the speed limit, or not the speed limit, they'll reduce your speed on the ticket so that the fine's lower. Like, that's been my consistent experience. Not that I've got a ton of experience getting pulled over, although I might have had more in my younger days. But 9 times out of 10, I pull over, put the window down, guy comes over, says, license, registration. I give it to him, he goes back to the car, he checks it, he comes back and either says, here's your ticket, or here's your warning. And he goes, oh, and or if he gives me the ticket, it's like, you know, you're going 83 and a 60. I dropped it down to 74 so that it's the tier lower so you don't have to pay as big a fine. He hands it to me. I say, thank you. I go on my way. Because here's the thing. If I escalate that, I'm still going to get a ticket. The ticket's probably going to be worse. And the interesting part is, with a ticket, police officer gives you a ticket. You can go to court and fight it.
Yeah.
That's where you can get it overturned.
Yeah.
Not by yelling at the dude.
It's only going to make it worse. It goes into other things. Like, so my dad traveled a lot for work, and I would travel with him sometimes. We were flying to Brussels, and the flight was overbooked. So they asked for volunteers. Well, we're home. So he volunteers. Hey, we'll get off this airplane. And, okay, then we go and talk to the gate agent. Now we get in line behind people that didn't volunteer, that were booted off. And they're yelling and screaming at the gate agent. They're like, yeah, we have another flight tomorrow. Okay, whatever. They're not being my dad goes up and is really cool with the guy. Because this guy's in the position of power, right? The gate agent is the one who can kind of make the call. So the guy says, you guys are home? Yeah, we're home. We're not getting back home, so we're good. He goes, you mind going through London? Nope. Not at all. He goes, we have a flight leaving for London in 4 hours, if you want that one, and then you just have to connect on a different airline through to Brussels. Sweet, no problem. My dad said, got anything in business class on that? As a matter of fact, I do. So rather than yelling at any one of those people in front, could have gotten that same deal, but because they wanted to run their mouths and vent their frustration at the guy who's in the position of power, even though the interaction, the power dynamic's very small, it still exists. This is the guy making the call, and if you come up and you show your ass, he's going to kick you in it. Whereas if you're up and you're like, hey, let's work together on this, we arrived in Brussels 6 hours later than we were going to in business class seats. I'll take that trade any day. Any single day I'll take that deal.
Especially if you got a flexible schedule, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, so old-timey sayings are sayings for a reason. You catch more flies with honey, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There have been times when I've flown off the handle, but that was usually after I tried the honey.
Yeah.
But that thing with, like, the flight issue, especially in today's world where flights are overbooked a lot.
Yeah. It's almost a matter of practice.
I think I don't know if they came up with a law that you can't double book seats now, but there's still instances when they ask you to, they'll go on the speaker and say, is there anybody that's willing to get off the flight? And they'll offer you like $400 or $500 or whatever. I always hope for that situation because generally I don't have a set schedule or I can always go the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to be really willing to accommodate you for calmly and voluntarily alleviating their situation.
Sure.
And so, like, my mom actually jokes with me. So I was going on a flight, I think to see my grandparents, and I was flying alone. And this is back before the TSA checks and all that stuff. So my parents were sitting, they were by the gate, and they were waiting with me. And this flight attendant takes me on the flight, sits me down, no issues. I had a little nose for business back in the day, even as a child. And so my parents are sitting there, and they start hearing, the flight's overbooked, and we're offering $300 and the next flight out for anyone who takes it. My mom, she said she turned to my dad and said, "This fucker's going to get off the flight." It got up to like $600, a free flight in addition to, and a free hotel stay overnight because the next flight wasn't leaving until the morning. My mom was like, I was sweating. She's like, I thought we were gonna see you come off that flight. And I was like, Mom, I was so close, but I didn't know if you were still in the airport.
Yeah.
So I love those opportunities. If you can get freebies and you got a flexible schedule, I'm like, yeah. Because I mean, think about it. At $500, I mean, that's a round trip ticket in the U.S. at least.
And my dad would do. So he would always leave on Saturday to go to Brussels for whatever they had to do for Monday. He didn't have to be there till Monday, but he'd leave Saturday intentionally because it also gave him a day to acclimate to the time for the jet lag. So he would do it on purpose, knowing that also, and sometimes he'd even leave Friday.
Yep.
Because that gave him even more flexibility. Plus, he went to Brussels so much he really liked the city and knew it, and had friends there, and the people he worked with. So,
flight hack: business flights are usually most booked on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. So Mondays people are going to. Thursdays they're generally coming back.
Yeah.
Because they all want to get back before the weekend. So Fridays and Saturdays and sometimes Sundays are where your better deals on flights might be. Okay,
and he went and would do that, but also he'd have so many vouchers that they would just go places and do things on the vouchers from getting off. In fact, it got to the point where when my mom would take him to Dulles, she would hang out in the area for when he'd be like, "Hey,
she knew who she married.
I'm leaving tomorrow, so come back."
Yeah.
But he even figured out he'd wheel and deal and be like, "Yeah, I'm home, but I don't feel like driving back to we live 2 hours from the airport." Oh, okay, we'll put you in the hotel tonight. So again, it's that whole power dynamic, and if you recognize it and play it right, you're going to be better off than if you come off yelling and screaming. Sure, does yelling and screaming feel good sometimes? Are you frustrated? Does the whole airport thing suck? Does getting pulled over by the police suck? Yes, it all sucks. However, you don't have to make it suck worse.
Right.
And by approaching it in that manner, you make it suck worse. This can take us back to these protests. Like, where you fall on the issue, and I look at it personally. There are people here illegally, but there are ways to do this that are different than what it's being portrayed to be. Now, is it always masked ICE agents with tactical gear and armored vehicles? Probably not. But that's the ones that were being shown because it gets people amped up. So, and then the rhetoric being used, comparing this to Holocausts and stuff like that, I think it's a little extreme.
But the left always does this. Mm-hmm. It's always let's create hyperbole.
Yeah.
And see who we can finally get people, if we can finally get them to regret their vote.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can't vote for him again.
Yeah. Well, you can't anyway.
Well, you can't anyway, right? So. But I mean, the thing is, like, it's always, what can we do to make him seem so unappealing? And it's like, that ship sailed.
Yeah.
And it didn't work because you were that unappealing. It's like, you've got to make yourself more appealing than the other side. It's not a matter of, you're that unappealing, so you got to make the other side seem really unappealing.
Right.
That strategy isn't working anymore. Yeah. And the situation like with Pretti, and even the good, so like when we talked about the Renee Good situation, it's like the whole part on the left is, well, her wheels were turned. Yeah, but it's a rear-wheel drive car. When she hit the gas, it went forward. Like, the initial movement of that car was forward. It won't start turning until, like, another wheel rotation. Mm-hmm. That initial burst was at the officer. Anyone who watches that video will see that. And, well, their wheels were turned. Okay, the officer isn't looking at the fucking wheels. He's looking at the car coming at him. Mm-hmm. And if you've never been in that situation, which 99% of these people never have.
Right. And they also have the benefit of looking at it in slow motion.
Well, sure.
From 8 million different angles. And when
they're not there with the build-up.
Right.
But the wife that's outside the car yelling at the guy.
Mm-hmm. With her phone up.
Like, I was even like, the lady was blocking traffic. Oh, she was letting people go by. She's still blocking traffic. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a matter of how much you're agitating. You're agitating.
Yeah.
The officer tried to ask you to get out of the car. You didn't get out of the car. You didn't put it in park. You put it back in drive because your wife's telling you to drive. Like, there were 90 ways to de-escalate that situation from her own standpoint. And she didn't do any of them. And she fucking died. Mm-hmm. It's like, these people don't have to die if you don't do dumbass shit. I'm not saying don't protest. First Amendment, free speech, right to assemble, protest. Do that shit. But when you approach someone who faces danger, and they shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't be there. No, that's not how this works.
Right.
But I mean, it's like they only take this little snippet and don't see the entire situation, right? Pretti was aggressive on the day he got shot.
Mm-hmm. And there was video of him before, like kicking vehicle, like he kicked one.
Those were the days before.
Yeah,
but in the
day the taillight, like the actual assembly, the whole assembly came out of was hanging by the wiring harness.
But on that day he got shot, so a lady got pushed, and he was trying to step in between. Okay, why are you stepping in between? Oh, I want to say that from a federal officer, she will get her day in court. Mm-hmm. She will probably sue CBP, and maybe get millions.
Yeah.
You jumping in escalated that situation. Now you not only put your life in danger, you put her life in danger.
Sure.
Okay. Then, after that had been resolved, he got pepper sprayed. Okay. Then he kept charging. Mm-hmm. And this is in the video. And they're going to say, well, they pulled him from behind. Yeah, because he was going at another officer. So another one pulled him from behind. Okay, then he's on his knees. He's not restrained at this point. He's on his knees. And that's when he reached. Now, he didn't get shot then. That's when they restrained him, they put him on the ground. and that's when it seemed the shooting scene
Yeah.
happened. So, and this was after the gun was already out.
Yeah.
So when he was on his knees, as he reached, that's why they kind of went and started to restrain him, and that's when the officer pulled the gun out of his back holster, apparently. So I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Because there's video of an officer kind of walking away from the removing a
Yes.
firearm
Yeah.
from the.
So that was removed.
Yeah. Well, now.
In the initial reach, I'm not saying he reached for the gun, but he reached for something because his jacket kind of flies up. and so it's not a matter as if you reach for the gun. You reached for something that officers couldn't see.
Yeah.
But even then, they didn't shoot him at that point. They just restrained him. Now, why they shot him after that, don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know either.
And it'll come out because there's body cams that they're looking at body cams now.
It's whenever I watch videos like that, I watch them the same way. So I follow a lot of umpire and umpire content, and someone will put up like safer out, like what's the call. I always watch it at full speed, and then I make my own call to decide what it is because that's how the umpire making the call saw it. Mm-hmm. Now you can rewind it, or rewind it and then play it back super slow, or from different angles so you can see whether the call was right. But you have to make the call from the speed at which it was initially seen from. So the Pretti shooting, I just wonder if a lot of these ICE agents, they're federal law enforcement, but they're not street cops. They're not doing this type of work all the time.
Right.
And there's such a huge surge that they're taking essentially the house cats and they're putting them on the street. So
I don't know. I think ICE agents do these kind of raids though. Now CBP might not.
yeah, but now they've got a whole. Now I have some friends that are HSI, mm-hmm. and some of them are out there doing this stuff, but a lot of them aren't.
Right.
And people like to say, because they watch stupid TV shows and the FBI comes in and takes over from the locals.
Right.
Those local street cops are much. They might not be investigators and have all the fancy Fed toys, but when it comes to dealing with volatile situations on the street, I will take my local city cop or county guy or deputy who does it every single day over, because they just do it more often.
Yeah.
And some of these situations I've seen, with the officer, with Renee Good, he put himself in a bad spot.
Yeah, I don't know why he stood in front of the car.
Yeah,
well, actually, I do know. He was stopping her from moving.
It comes down to a thing where, you don't want that car to move, so you'll see it on, with just regular civilians who are arguing about stuff, and all of a sudden, the girlfriend is trying to stop the boyfriend from leaving and stands in front of the car. You are not going to stop that car.
Right.
That car, even a small, shitty, like a Honda Civic weighs what, 1,500 pounds? I don't know what they weigh.
I think 2,000.
2,000. Yeah, it weighs 2,000 pounds. Let's just say 2,000 pounds. It's got 150 horsepower. Physics are not going to allow you to stop that car.
Right.
But it gets to the thing like, I don't want this thing to move. I'm going to stand in front of it to keep it from moving. And if you shoot at the car is not going to stop.
Right.
Unless you instantly incapacitate the driver. But however, at that point, what throttle set, what position is the gas pedal in?
And they may have the reflex to press the gas harder.
Yeah. And you don't know what happens, like now they've got their foot on the gas, now all of a sudden they're dead, now it's just the weight of the foot on the gas. Pressing the gas pedal, now the car's, so you've actually achieved the opposite of your intended effect.
Yeah.
So when I look at some of these things and I see, well, are these guys doing this all the time? And I don't know their backgrounds of what they're doing, and this is by no means to put them down, but it just goes from the fact that experience dealing with people on the street day to day in a variety of different situations makes you better at it than someone who's spent, in an investigative role.
Well,
so,
and my whole point in this is if you protest peacefully and out of the way, Even if you're near it, just stay out of the way.
Yeah.
You're not going to save anybody by harassing law enforcement.
No,
they're going to do what they're going to do.
The woman who they were taking into custody is in custody.
Yeah, you're right. And so, but even like the Renee Good situation, putting your car in the middle of traffic, people blocking, or the groups that people that walk and block traffic, or they stretch across a highway.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
You could be protesting something I'm 100% for.
Yeah.
But if you've blocked my way to work, I am now. You could be like, free ice cream and puppy dogs for everybody, and you've blocked the highway. I am now against ice cream and puppy dogs.
Well, it goes from protesting to temper tantrum.
Yeah.
And I got no sympathy for temper tantrums. Like, do your protests, get your permits. Like, there's a way to do it, right? Like, oh well, that's when they come up, the politicians saying, oh, you got to get in good trouble, It's like, and this is where the politicians need to shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. Stop that bullshit, because you're basing your rhetoric on people being sane. And what we've seen is there's a lot of insane motherfuckers out here that are so in a bubble and so just, like, they're so willing to do whatever it is so that the people in the cult like them. Like, we've talked about this with cults. It's like, it's why people join cults. They want attention, they want friends, because they can't make them otherwise.
Yeah.
Or they haven't made them otherwise. And they become more extreme than the true believers, because they're trying to prove themselves, right?
It becomes the I think it was Marx, the useful idiots.
Yes.
And I almost wish they realized, like, you're being used as cannon fodder, right? Like, they want, if you're going to go to a pure Marxist train of thought, they want Pretti and Renee Good. They want these people to die.
They want them to die because it gets more true believers. It gets more people into the cult.
Yeah.
And they use them as it's the cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Like, the cannon fodder is a term for a reason. Mm-hmm. They don't care about you.
Right.
You're a useful idiot. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the end result of this. The end result is Greg Bovino out, which we could talk about that dude another day. Like, bros, if you are a caricature of law enforcement, you fed the whole fucking narrative, walking around like the SS costume. Like, come on, brother, you can't be doing that.
Have
shit.
some, like, look at the optics.
Yeah, right? Like, you had the fucking haircut, the facial, not the facial, but you had the haircut going, the leather. Like, bro, did you not look in the mirror and say, not the best idea? No, of course not, because you went out like that.
Right. Where were your people?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so, all right. So he is now going to retire, and he's going to be out of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. All right. So the left gets a win, but Tom Homan goes in. Now, for all the people that bash Tom Homan, you want to know who the ICE director was under President Obama?
Tom Homan.
Tom Homan. You want to know who received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama?
Tom Homan.
Tom Homan. President Obama put it around his neck himself. Mm-hmm. That's who you're protesting, a dude who did this under a Democrat president. By the way, do you want to know who deported more immigrants under President Obama?
Homan.
Tom Homan.
Yeah.
With the same tactics, by the way.
Yeah.
And nobody was protesting that shit. That's another thing that people need to think about. Why are people protesting it now?
Yeah.
Is it because it's a Republican president? Because when the Democrat president did this exact same thing, there were no protests in the street.
And I'm sure W. Bush did it too. And
might not use the same guy, but sure.
Yeah.
And but they did, and it was funny. So anyone who wants to know what's going on, kind of with like the immigration thing, I highly encourage you to go look up Johnny Harris on YouTube. He did a great video on this. And there are some really shitty things that this administration has done to be able to deport more people. They reclassified some of the immigration statuses as illegal versus legal.
Right.
Okay? And they did that to boost numbers. That was a shitty thing to do, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But they did it to boost numbers because someone wanted numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not in agreement with that shit. But he also talked about a tactic, and it was under Biden, you could only go after the person that you were going after. So the person you had the warrant for.
Yeah.
Under Obama and now Trump, now essentially as you're going for the person with the warrant, if you find any other illegal immigrants, you can also get them as well. It's a difference in tactics. All presidents have used both. Mm-hmm. It was just a fascinating. It's like a 45-minute thing. It's a really guy's name is Johnny Harris. He's actually more liberal on this stuff, but he did in my opinion, he did a very balanced video. It didn't have emotion behind it. It was just these are the facts.
Right.
And I just found it fascinating. Now, I don't know if that makes me more liberal or what. I have no idea. Now, look, we've always said we both have fairly liberal viewpoints on some things, but then we also have fairly conservative viewpoints on other things. So, and somehow we rank among the conservative podcasts and not amongst the liberal ones. Go figure.
Yeah.
Even though we probably have more liberal viewpoints than we do conservative ones. It's like some of us will put us in the socialist Democrat issue with some of the shit we believe.
Depending on what we're talking about. Which is probably where everyone is anyway.
So now Bovino is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Homan is there, and Homan sat down directly with Walz and the Minneapolis mayor, Josh Fryer?
Jacob Fry.
Jacob Fry, yeah. And they came to an agreement. They were no longer going to be doing street warrants, or street grabs, basically. Yeah. But in exchange, Walz and Fry agreed to let ICE go into the state and local prison system to then grab illegal immigrants that are in the system. And Homan said, I can now use one agent rather than 15 to go get someone.
Well, then in this ridiculous state, they're trying to pass, because the state legislature is in session right now, they're trying to pass a law that removes that agreement when someone who has ICE paperwork, who's already in custody, and the whole logic behind it is they're already in.
Well,
they're already secure. So why are we going to? It's a much safer apprehension than to pick people up on the street.
Well, and this is also a little bit of a trap, because if Democrats say, "Oh no, this is a horrible plan," okay. So now what you're doing is you're saying there's an actual illegal alien criminal in your jail, and you're against them being deported. That's not a win in any demographic in this country. Mm-mm. So wait a minute. We're using taxpayer dollars to house this person, feed this person, when they're an illegal immigrant and they've been convicted of a crime?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to win that one.
Right.
And so this is fairly brilliant as far as a strategy goes, because now you have to use less resources to get the same number of criminals out of the country. And now you can say they're actually criminals. It's not, they can't use the narrative of, oh, it's just the housekeeper or the landscaper. That narrative now has to go away. And they basically just sacrificed Greg Bovino, who was a fucking idiot anyway.
Right. Yeah, I saw him wearing that. The coat he was wearing it's called a great coat, and they used to issue it and apparently Border Patrol issued it as part of one of their. So he chose to wear that particular uniform item. It's just such a.
He is your typical bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. When we talk about useful idiots, he was the administration's useful idiot. Mm-hmm. They knew who he was. They knew he would fuck up eventually. And they just waited him out.
Yeah.
And eventually it happened.
Yep. Give enough rope.
Right. And now he's going to, and I'm using air quotes, retire. Mm-hmm. Which it's a forced retirement. They're saying, look, you can either retire or we're going to fire you.
Right.
In which you'll never get another job anyway. Mm. So the administration got what they originally wanted anyway. Because originally, before they went to Minnesota, they had asked for this permission to do this, and Walz, being his amazing self, said no.
Yeah.
Well, then of course it looked like he was part of the whole Leering Center $1 billion, yeah. And so I think part of it is because then he came out and said, oh, we should really we got to tone down the rhetoric When someone's in trouble, they want to tone down the rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And Fry's probably looking out for himself. You're going to see some self-preservation moves here in the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
But all that being said, it's like none of it had to get to this point, but there are certain people and organizations that want it to get to this point.
Sure.
Because that's how they get votes and donations, and donations especially.
Yeah, and that's the thing that irritates me the most with the politicians, whether they're elected leaders, appointed ones. With that, why did someone have to die? Why did two people have to die? You don't have to be an expert to see the writing on the wall as to what the next logical step is going to be in this, and they know it's coming and they allow it to happen. Then all of a sudden, oh, let's tone down the rhetoric. That should have been, you people should have been saying, don't insert yourself into these situations. It's dangerous, right? Like, don't run back into your house to save your pet when it's on fire. It's probably not going to work out well for you.
Right.
But they won't, but they want it to happen. Now they can sit back and say, say her name, and all the idiots are saying that Renee Good, say her name.
They're back to hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah, all the nonsense, and it didn't have to get to that point. But you allowed it to happen. You knew the fires were burning. You were reading all the gauges. Like, you're driving down the highway, the temp gauge is starting to spike. There's a little bit of smoke coming out. You probably should pull over, your engine's overheating. Nope, you let the thing seize. And
you step on the gas and rev it higher until it does seize.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's
And none of them are held accountable. Not one of those people will be punished. They'll probably get reelected. They'll fail up like they always do.
Waltz dropped out of the governor race.
Yeah.
But it really is. It's the sacrificial lambs, right? And a lot of these people don't realize that they're the sacrificial lambs.
Yeah.
Like, if you, like, I get it. You want to fight for rights. You want to fight for causes. It gives you purpose in life. I understand that. But politicians are going to try and make money off of you. You are the useful idiot in that. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't mean idiot in the terms of you shouldn't protest or you shouldn't believe in causes. I'm just saying if you then do extreme things for that cause or that, it's like, then you're not causing any change. Because the real change, I mean, even look back at the civil rights era. And I know this is probably be like, oh no, where's he going? Think of all the marches that Martin Luther King did. Peacefully. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening?
Yeah.
He got the Civil Rights Act passed. That's how you affect change. And eventually Martin Luther King, he realized that's where the change has to happen. Social change is different from political change. Mm-hmm. Social change has to happen over a long period of time. Yeah. Old school, I love that. OG gays know this. Like, they had a tough time in the 80s and 90s, especially through the AIDS crisis when they were labeled as certain. But then the late 90s, early 2000s, the social change started to happen. Social change takes time. Legislative change takes time too, but that has to be done differently. Mm-hmm. And again, Martin Luther King did it through peaceful protests, and got legislation signed, which then changed things. Right? That's how you affect change.
Yeah.
Not by going and driving your car at a police officer, or going by pushing an ICE agent, or being an agitator gets you nowhere except vilified by the other side. So. And it doesn't change anyone's mind. In fact, if anything, you're entrenching the other person's viewpoint. Yeah. That you're the asshole. You're the problem. Mm-hmm. Not the other way around. Yeah. Like, no one's going to say, you know what? He died. Yeah, I don't like them now. I don't like ICE now. Doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Let us know what you think. Hot button topic. Everyone's got opinions on it. Trust me, I know that. Like, subscribe, comment, share. I want to thank Adam Chubbuck with tacmd.com. That's TACMD.com. TACMD.com with Douglas Realty in Pasadena, Maryland. Shoot him an email, shoot him a call, set up your appointment today, and we will talk to you next week.